Now, the last bit of information that really blew me away in the middle of this, after we had gotten done with the practice and everything, and we had, patted each other on the back for, good jobs, I wound up asking him at one point because I was just curious. I said, well, how long have you both been in voice acting? And Mr. Victorian, voice actor guy, he said, "Oh, well, I've been doing this about 15 years." I said, "Really?" He said, "Well, I was doing just more school projects and just doing things for fun, but I've kept on doing movies and home movies and stuff like that as I've been going on, and I've just kind of developed a voice, but I don't really do it for money. I just do it for a hobby." I said, "Really?" I was like, huh, but he has a really, really good set for villain voices. Gonna find out he's more classically trained in theater and stuff like that, and he likes doing things like that. So when he was giving me the feedback for my voices, it was all from a classically trained place. And what was interesting is he didn't get a whole lot of references that Mr. Voice Director was doing. Mr. Voice Director, he does a whole bunch of cartoons. That's where he got all of his stuff from, was from anime, cartoons, all of the, pop culture stuff. He was even referencing Teen Titans Go and things like that, which was interesting to me because I was like, oh, so when I was getting the feedback earlier and he was saying that I had a bad voice and voice director was saying that I had a good voice, it was because they had very different interpretations of what the voice lines and what the characters should sound like. So, yeah, of course, if somebody hasn't seen anime or they haven't watched a whole lot of cartoons, if they don't have that experience, then of course they're going to think that I'm doing an awful job. But somebody who actually watches anime and, is into cartoons and things like that, of course they're going to listen to it and they're going to hear a cartoon voice. So that was the big difference that that we had and why each one said something different, which was really interesting because I was thinking about it, I'm like, okay, so it depends on the person's experience doing the voice directing that allows you to be able to say, well, this voice was good or this voice wasn't good. It's kind of interesting in regards to that. Now, as far as this went, it was just a practice, so all's well that ends well. It really doesn't matter as long as the voices for the project get done, right? And that's kind of what counts. But in regards to a little bit of experience that they were telling me about, this one kind of hurt a little because there were some things that I noticed when we did these practices. And Mr. Voice Actor, Mr. V, he wound up saying at one point that he only does this for a hobby, right? And he's been doing it for 15 years, but only does it as a hobby. And I was like, well, that's interesting. And I asked VD, the voice director, well, how long have you been doing this? He's only been doing it for about 4 years. And he's a voice director. And all of a sudden, it made sense why he couldn't land some of the more character lines or more believable lines, yet he excels really good at being a voice director. And it kind of blew me away. I'm like, okay, how does somebody who struggle with voices so much, how are they able to be a voice director? Well, it's because he used to do it for a bunch of other projects, and he was very good at managing projects and being able to guide people. And sometimes that's the skill set you need to have, even if you're not, super great at voices. But here's the interesting thing. He can do a Disney princess voice like you wouldn't believe. It is amazing. I cannot get anywhere near that. It was very impressive. But it's kind of interesting to be able to see the different life experiences and where they came from. And they asked me well, what's your experience in voice acting? I said, well, I've been taking classes for 7 years, and I'm trying to learn how to be able to turn it into a paying business. I want to be able to get paid for my work. And they were both just flabbergasted. They said, you've been going to classes for 7 years to do voice acting? I was like, yeah. They said, how much money have you spent? I said, I've spent about $3,000, on this stuff. And they're like, really? They're like, yeah, no, we don't spend anywhere near that much. And it was interesting because the voice director, he uses just his mobile phone for a lot of these. And Mr. Voice Actor, he has equipment from when he was going to school that he was able to get from people and from friends and from the school when he was doing it. So for me, starting from nothing and then building onto that without any extra experience, yeah, I had to spend money. They probably did spend money, but they haven't been keeping track of it. Or in the circles that they're going in, perhaps they're not even having to spend a whole lot of money. They're probably having friends or other people they talk to give them the equipment that they need through networking. Of course, there's always the possibility that they didn't need any extra equipment like voice director. He just uses his phone. But it's also important to keep in mind the kind of niches that we are in. Currently, the projects that I have been trying to do have just been indie projects. And you got to remember that the nature of indie projects is mostly hobbyist based anyway. A lot of people that are doing these indie stuff aren't doing it to get paid. And I'm doing it just to build a portfolio. This, to me, is just a small stepping stone on my way to get something bigger. I want to actually be able to make a living off of this. And that's not in their mindset. That's not their goal. They're not trying to achieve that. They're just doing it for fun. And it was amazing how different all three of us, our life experiences were and what our goals in it were. Because Mr. Voice Director, he just likes being able to help people with their projects. He likes being able to see them through to fruition, right? Especially when they're having problems. Mr. Voice Actor, he's just doing it for the fun of theater, right? Just to be able to do a project or take part in it. That's his fun. That's his way that he winds down. For me, it's sink or swim. I want to be able to get into the industry so that way I can start making money and I can have a living with my disability. And it's so different seeing how each of us have come together and why we're all here. So I want you to keep that in mind when you go into these projects, when you're talking with these people. Everybody gets into the voice acting industry for a myriad of reasons, and each one has a different experience and a different idea of what they think sounds good, which kind of lends more credence to my advice from earlier from a previous video. You have to use your ears and your body to be able to make tones that that sound good. And only you can do that. Only you can really tell if something sounds really good to you. For instance, when I came out of that, I felt kind of bad in some ways that I was weak in a lot of areas, but I was strong in a lot. I learned a ton. But I also had to back some things up with data. So I went on to Casting Call Club, and I did some research. I've done maybe about 60 submissions this entire year, but I was like, well, why haven't I done a whole lot of work this year? It's because I was doing a lot of stuff on itch.io, and that's where the majority of my voice acting projects and stuff came from. And that's kind of interesting because I put together how many people wanted me for roles and things like that. Out of the 60 submissions, I got shortlisted, I want to say about 15 times. And talking with some of the other voice actors, they were saying, well, usually I have to do 100 auditions to land one role. And I said, well, that's interesting because in my 60 submissions that I did, I landed 3 roles. And then on itch.io, I went and I did the game jams. And I have about 6 roles over there that I landed over there. And that wasn't even auditioning. That was just me saying on their platform, hey, I'm a voice actor. If you need a voice actor for your project, let me know. Come to castingcallclub.com and I can go and we can talk about what you want for your project. And so a lot of the roles that I have landed, even though I've sent them to Casting Call Club, they aren't listed on Casting Call Club. It says that maybe I have 2 roles and one of them wound up petering out. But that's kind of the interesting thing is you can look at somebody's profile, right, and say, oh, well, they only did 60 submissions, but it doesn't tell you how many times they got shortlisted. And some of the things that I got accepted for and shortlisted for, they don't even popped up in the accepted roles. And so I'm like, really? Especially the shortlist. You don't see what people get shortlisted for. But out of the 60 submissions that I made, I got shortlisted 15 times. And one voice actor told me that if you're being shortlisted, that means you're doing something right. And I had varying degrees of people in the voice acting club and I think it was on Reddit that I was talking to, and they said, yeah, being shortlisted is difficult. And here's the thing, I don't know whether they're in the professional space or whether they're in the indie space. But the info that I did glean from the indie space, I'm being shortlisted more than what seems to be the average, at least for the group that I was talking in for indie group stuff. As far as professional and commercial, I don't know. I just have to keep in consideration that the data point that a couple of people wound up concurring on in one of those group things on Reddit was that it takes them about 100 auditions to get 1 role. So that could be casting sites, right? Paid casting call sites or whatever, pay-to-plays. Probably is. I met some people on there that actually are way, way better at being able to get auditions and things like that, but they're doing other things. They're not using pay-to-plays. They are actually going out and finding clients and doing emails, cold calls, etc. So if you want to be able to know exactly where you stand in this industry, I would say comparing yourself to others, I have a much different perspective of it now because so many people come from so many different backgrounds and so many different ways of attacking something that you, in a lot of ways, cannot compare yourself to anybody else because they don't necessarily know what sounds good. They don't necessarily know what you need to be able to improve, but what counts is what the director wants. If they want you, you're doing something right, right? So I would say that it's a lot more about data points in regards to that, whether or not you're climbing higher or whether you're doing better. That's just my personal opinion and what I'm seeing, because if I were to say, well, you know, my success is based off of somebody that said something good about me. Unfortunately, there's a lot of people that say good things. There's a lot of people that don't. So I don't think that's a really good way to be able to gauge it. And as far as comparing yourself to others, I would say compare your voice. No, I wouldn't even say that. I wouldn't compare my voice to others because I just learned with this session that you shouldn't compare your voice to others or make your voice like others, right? Even though I semi-knew some of that stuff before. You don't want to be a perfect clone or copy of somebody else's voice, but you're going to want to compare a delivery, I would say. Not the voice, but how it's delivered. Are you selling it? Are you selling the role? What made this person sell this character's role? How did they deliver it? Not what's their voice, not necessarily what's their tone. You can go off of, well, maybe they emphasized this. Maybe there were intonations in here. Maybe their diction is just better. Maybe I can understand how they pronounce words better, right? or maybe even plosives, right? Sorry about that. But plosives and sibilants. Is it too essy? Is it too p, or puffy? Take those into account. Those are the things to be able to compare. Say, okay, compare on technique. What is it that they're doing to deliver that I'm not delivering on? And then you'll be able to do it. At least that's what I've found out during this thing. I found it really interesting, and I hope it helps you out. And I hope you don't have to go through that same thing that I went through. But if I can give you that information so that you don't have to go through it, all the better for you, right? That's the whole goal for this. So thank you so much for watching and listening. Once again, my Patreon has more in-depth stuff. Please feel free to go and check that out. Thank you so much. And if you haven't been on YouTube, by the way, if you're listening to this on a podcast, I have a lot more stuff on my YouTube, and you can actually get images and videos with it. Some of this stuff is the same content, just audio mixed with pictures, but at least you'll be getting more, So anyway, thank you very much, and I hope this helped you out. Take care, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you want to continue to join me on my voice acting journey, then don't forget to subscribe to me on YouTube or join my Patreon for more videos where you can hear practice reads, blooper reels, or even my experiences of getting into voice acting. Who knows? Maybe you can even join this disabled guy on his journey. Thanks again, and as always, stay safe out there.